Okay, the magic machine tells me that I'm live, and I will take it at its word, and I will hope and assume that everything is fine with the audio quality. We'll start off with some, simple housekeeping issues. I'm running this as, an informal live stream, and I've put, hashtag solo RPG, hashtag live stream in the title description. Even though, we are going to do our best to stay on topic and do this as a review, a straight review of, the Guildhall Gambit Deluxe Adventure module. I'm not going to try and do this as a tight, concise, get you in, get you out, um, 5, 10, 12-minute review. Um, I come from a different area on YouTube. Uh, People may look in the description box below and see a PayPal donation link, a Patreon link, and say, gee, this guy has very few subscribers and this channel is, very young. Uh, it's a bit of presumption here. I've actually been on YouTube since 2015. My main YouTube channel that's actually not in the description box below for a variety I'm not the most professional YouTuber at all. Had has over had at one point had over 5,000 subscribers. So there were reasons why my channel, why I had those extra things, and as I came over here at a certain point, it just made sense that after a while to start migrating those things over. And so I'm telling you, to why they're there, though it might seem initially out of place. Though I will tell you that if you go over to the Patreon or join the Patreon, the videos that are there will be obviously out of context. They're not geared towards RPG content. They're not geared towards anything other than new age spirituality, conspiracy theory, and other kind of esoteric and out of the realm topics. We start from where we start from, and like I said, I don't consider myself a professional YouTuber. It was never my agenda to do YouTube. It was always my agenda to just, as a creative person, as an explorer, as a person with ideas and a desire to expand upon those ideas and share those ideas, to use YouTube as a means and a platform to get those ideas out, not to be a YouTuber or to let YouTube do me. Though I had varying levels of success, things go different places anyway. So there's that out of the way. And so, coming back to the present moment, here we are doing another review of another micro chapbook RPG product authored by Noah Patterson. This micro chapbook RPG system, micro RPG system by Noah Patterson, has become kind of, my kind of, my love. It's just the system that kind of gained my main interest. I was always into role-playing games, though I'm not Mr. RPG. I'm not going to come up here and say I'm a dungeon master with 25 years plus experience running this group and that group, and I was over here at this awards and I developed this system and I authored this product, and me from Drive Through RPG where I did this or did that or anything else. Hello to Spooky in the live chat, how you doing, baby? Or anything like that. I'm a hobbyist. My main experience with role-playing games goes back through 1985 through, primarily through 1989 when I was, quite the youth. That was my primary experience with role-playing with other individuals in the traditional sense, a game master, a dungeon master, and several participants as players gathered around and doing and engaging in the act of traditional role playing. And the primary systems that I played, with my contemporaries and my peers was first edition Dungeons and Dragons, you know what I mean? Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first edition, and Robotech from a lot of Palladium games we were into. It was Robotech and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. Those were kind of our jams. And individually, I was always trying to get people to play Car Wars, but no one wanted to. And I was always trying to get people to play Judge Dredd. No one ever wanted to. But that started, another motif. As I got older, those initial formative steps and experiences with the role-playing game hobby always stayed with me. And as I got older, though I no longer participated in the group activity of role-playing, those formative experiences ingrained that love of the hobby, the love of the books, the love of the lore, the looking at the tables, the art. It was all part of this culture. The comic book shops, the game shops, that were always kind of integrated. As a New Jersey boy, we would go into the city, and we would go to places like Forbidden Planet, and we would see these, import products from overseas, Games Workshop products, and a lot of this stuff was just so enticing and so intriguing. So as years went by, though I would not be a player in, community groups or, playing with other people, if I was at a used bookstore, even if I was at a new bookstore, if I saw a particular role-playing game, book, or product that caught my eye, I was always still collecting the books. I was always still interested in the hobby, very much so. And I was always interested in the culture. I'd always end up picking up occasional issues of, Dragon magazine or Dungeon magazine. I was always, picking up rule books here and there, especially when I would find the occasional one, used or at a sale or something. And it went on like this. So though I wasn't an active, quote unquote, gamer, my knowledge of the hobby and my experience of the hobby and my experience of the community always remained. I always was engaged in communications with people. And we always, occasionally there was always these experiences of trying to get something going. And, maybe occasionally people would get together and try to make something happen. Maybe a session would happen here or there. Something would peter out, something would happen. Plans would be formulated and made to make something happen, but maybe it just wouldn't gel. And so it would go on like this. And as life would continue and things would continue and life would get more complex, and I became further estranged from youth cultures and, community-based cultures or comic cultures or nerd cultures as they were, involved in family and such. Again, it became more of an individual practice of loving these books, loving these things, and knowing about things like on YouTube, watching videos, subscribing to channels, but not participating actively with the games other than reading the books, knowing about developments and new systems coming out, but not really using the systems other than as, information, as data. That was enough for me. I got a lot out of it. That was enough for me. I really didn't care. I'll tell you this. My experiences of playing the games, for me, weren't as fun as reading the books. Really, I got to tell you, whether it's the fact that I'm wired differently or belong on some sort of spectrum or what, I'm not a big fan of people. I like my kids. You know what I mean? I like the few friends that manage to remain as friends, but for the most part, community activities are, I like them okay, but you know what I mean? But, I'm okay. When I started to find out about things like solo RPG playing, it was a really appealing process to me, and it was a really appealing thing. So when I started to find out about it, like a lot of people, kind of during the pandemic process and all this stuff, I was like, wait, what? And so knowing that I had this backlog of all these role-playing game products from my youth and that I collected over the years, when I discovered that there was this community and culture of people that had developed this process and this ongoing system of playing solo, though obviously I had some familiarity with the fact that they were solo products. There's initial, like with Dungeons and Dragons, there's an initial solo adventure. I knew that I'd seen those like highlighter kind of solo adventures for Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, and was obviously familiar with things like, fighting fantasy and choose your own adventure books and such. But the kind of solo RPG renaissance that kind of happened post pandemic was a kind of real revelation for me, as it was for a lot of people. So the notion that I could activate this stuff and get back involved in the hobby as a player by myself and breathe new life into these products, many of which I had kind of gone through. I had in 2019, my marriage had come to an end due to an affair, and in 2020 that affair come to an end, and as a result I had moved all of my shit out of my house and then was alone with all of my shit in another house. So I had time on my hands and a lot of my shit. So yeah, it was like, I guess, kind of the perfect setup. So for devastation and or let's get to work. So here, we found ourselves, you know what I mean? Like, let's do something with this stuff. And I guess ironically, I ended up discovering new stuff to buy and to get involved in. And shortly after discovering this solo RPG community and culture, I came upon the work of one Noah Patterson and became quite enamored, and started collecting, really getting involved in collecting this individual's work. This is a small collection. The work of Noah Patterson is available, and it's not very expensive. If people are familiar with a lot of RPG products, depending on what system you're talking about, an initial investiture, sure. Did I mention my esoteric speech impediment? It's called fancyitis. I pronounce things exceptionally well. If we're talking about something like even Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, if we're talking about a player's handbook, a monster manual, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, if you want to go, kind of the initial whole enchilada, it can get up there. But these books are, a lot of these books are $7.99, $5.99 if you go the PDF download route on DriveThruRPG. We're talking a lot less money. So over the course of a year, I started to buy these things up and had a wonderful time with this extremely simple system. So when I started to do this RPG centered channel, kind of not really intending to, but my natural love for this particular product started to kind of make this channel kind of this system centric. Whether that continues to be the thrust of this channel, will remain to be seen. But for the time being, I think that that'll be a good way to go about it. I think it'll help the system, which is a system that I love, that I think could use the love. And I think loving the system will help it grow. Not that it needs help, but I think that creating a space for it will allow space for it. And then I think things will start to happen, because I think that's how it works. And then, motion creates emotion. That's part of the reason that I'm doing this as a live stream, is the notion that if there is a live stream space for people to eventually come to the live stream, come to the live chat, talk to the live chat, participate in the live chat, that frisson of intercommunication, even though solo RPG, right? Just because you play solo doesn't mean you don't have information and things you want to exchange and talk to people about. And talking in the live chat is different than exchanging communications back and forth in a comment section or on a blog. Those things have their old school and appeal, and they have their value. But the frisson of people talking and participating and going back and forth with the person live on a YouTube channel in a live chat has a spirit and energy of its own. Whether or not there's an organic community large enough to support that sort of live stream environ through for micro Chapbook RPG or for solo RPG playing in general, or whether or not I can generate or find that sort of community, will remains to be seen. It may or may not happen. It may or may not happen in short order. The only way to find out is to do. And the only way to do is to kind of suffer through these growing processes where I kind of for X amount of moments, X amount of minutes with nothing going on with the live chat except saying hi to an old friend in the live chat once, and a couple of people tuning in later on post going, hey, you know what's great? And you know what I love on YouTube? When I tune into a video called the Guildhall Gambit Deluxe Adventure Module Review, and I get an actual review of the Deluxe Adventure Module rather than some, chunky Jew talking for 16 minutes and 30 seconds about, hey, gee, wouldn't it be fun if, by the way, check out this. Let me talk to you about something else for, wouldn't it be nice if we were baba? You know what I mean? Like another thing and yada, yada, price of tea in China. Sorry about that. Without further ado, we'll get started after one more moment. But this moment gets closer to pay dirt, and that has to do with Noah Patterson, the creator of Micro Chapbook RPG. If you have been watching my previous episodes, you know that one of the leitmotifs that we've been talking about is the bravery with which Noah Patterson has put themselves out there in regards to their identity as a non-binary, a trans, gay, non-traditional person, and an individual who is doing their best to encourage LGBT plus gaming, hashtag gamer, the gay realm's entire milieu, an entire world and system designed to encourage and be a space for allies and LGBTQ plus people to know that it's there. It's that space. It's not inclusive of them. It's them and inclusive of everyone else. You know what I mean? Right? It's like that. You know what I mean? So it's really beautiful. But one thing that we had some difficulty with at first is Noah Patterson. There was no public facing statement regarding proper pronouns for them, and I had some difficulty with this. That at the intersection of that difficulty and the intersection of my own social awkwardness created, I think, some sort of, with me created, and my kind of wacky kind of, what I would characterize as, I'm, liberal, progressive, trans women or women. I'm not at all hung up. Really, I'm not. I don't give a fuck about anything. You know what I mean? Like, I consider myself like orientation queer. I don't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? I don't give a fuck about jack shit anything. I don't give a fuck. I'm like, but because I have a kind of Lenny Bruce, George Carlin kind of comedic attitude about things, I'm not politically correct at all. I knew and understood that in my kind of wacky treatment of my awkwardness about not knowing the pronouns, but not wanting to run afoul of misgendering or anything, that I could be offending people, or I could be, possibly, being too wacky. It was running the risk of getting awkward. So I finally did what I probably should have done from Jump Street. And I actually reached out to Noah and said, hey, do you have preferred pronouns? And they reached out to me and said, as a non-binary person, I don't care. They said as a non-binary, I'm going to read this one portion because I thought the reason I'm going to do this is because this goes in the face of all the BS you hear from people. Like, you hear this all the time from the RPG fun dips in the role-playing game and video game, the kind of the the Trumpistas of the world, that the pink purple haired liberals are, oh, my safe space, and you got to use our proper pronouns and blah blah blah. Well, now we know that you can tell those people that we have it on record that at least a significant portion of the non-binary RPG creators on drive-through RPG don't care about pronouns. So you could tell those people to go do whatever when they're acting like the crazy liberals are policing everybody to death. You know what I mean? So I thought that was great. So my pronouns are whatever. As a genderqueer and non-binary person, I'm sort of happy with whatever, so no worries. I thought that was a 1 in a million statement, and I thought it was worth sharing because I thought it was worth a 1 in a million statement. I thought it was worth sharing because it goes in the face of all those people who contend that all non-binary people are going around with some attitude about, you better do this and you better do that and you better respect, you know what I mean? So we can tell those people, don't worry about it as far as some things. But I'm going to go and continue to use they or them, or continue to use things other than he. And the reason I'm not going to use male gendered pronouns if Noah's comfortable with whatever is because using non-male gendered pronouns will indicate to people that it's not just Noah's not just a guy. And one of the things that I think is important is the reason that I think it's too easy for people. And I think that in the beginning, I noticed that people were talking about this and they were going he about, so that, well, then again, I noticed that a lot of people were doing that initially when they were talking about products that didn't have Noah's biographical information there. But now that we do have the biographical information there, and we have the bios, I think it's okay to say, let's just let people know that if to explain, if Noah is going to go as far as putting their presence out there, doing their work to expand LGBTQ plus gaming presence in the gaming space, that we can do our small part too by not just defaulting to the default. Anyway, that's that. And last point, you can't shake this guy. Yeah, idiot. Yeah, you can't shake this person, because if you think I was abstract in my videos, now I'm in DM contact with Noah, and I've done my best in DM contact to be like, do my videos freak you out? My videos are kind of weird, aren't they, Noah? I'm a strange weirdo, aren't I? Huh? You probably want to block me on social media because I'm so weird. And they're like, I've seen your videos. Period. They seem okay. I'm sure they'll help people expose the system. Period. And I'm like, ooh. I see you. We say hello to Jonaside. Say hello to Jonaside. We're up to bronze. We're up to silver. I apologize. Spooky wins the gold medal. Jonaside wins that silver. And we are 25 minutes in, folks. Who's going to get that bronze? And we are 25 minutes and 53 seconds into the discussion of the Guildhall Gambit. You guys and gals and people in between are new. Some of you are new to the Cable Guy Incognito YouTube experience. But for those people who've known me since 2015 will tell you, this is par for the course. Hey, if it's going to be an hour and 45-minute video, we're not going to start talking about the subject matter at hand until at least hour and 30 minutes in. Here's another point that's worth making. I practice by Grateful Dead rules. And what does that mean? This video is going to go at length. I'm like Miles Davis. You know what I mean? Like I go live to 2-track and we need, Tio Marceo in the engineering room to cut that thing up into bitches brew. You know what I'm saying? I improvise jazz live to 2-track. I'm Grateful Dead improvising, live on stage. And if you think that you can make this content better by editing any portion of it down to the pertinent parts, you can do so. I don't mind as long as you send me a link to the edited content. So if you want to take any portion of this video, the entirety of this video, and reproduce it on your channel, go for it. Just send me a link and give me credit where credit's due. And I don't mind. And I used to do that on my other channel too. Not that anyone would ever do that. The Guildhall Gambit. I wish I had put this in these words in the description. I might very well end up coming back and doing a more concise review as we have gone on for 27 minutes and 48 seconds before actually getting to the product. And I actually didn't put into the description what I would have wanted to say about it, which is the Guildhall Gambit, I think, is Noah Patterson's attempt to kind of capture an aspect of a game called Dungeon Crawl Classics zero level character funnel. Dungeon Crawl Classics is what's known as a pseudo clone of early Dungeons and Dragons. A retro clone, a pure retro clone of first generation's Dungeons and Dragons, emulates the game, as closely as possible. And a pseudo clone is a game that gets there but takes certain liberties to get the game different or improve it or change it. You know what I mean? If we have a game like the White Box, you might have the system, or the Bloomhall rules. You might have a system that is designed to get as close to the basic rules of the first edition Dungeons and Dragons as possible, just cleaning it up only to the degree necessary to clean things that made it possibly unplayable. But you might have another system that changes it to take it into different directions. Dungeon Crawl Classics is like one of those ones that it takes more liberties than certain other ones do. And one of the things that Dungeon Crawl Classics features is this thing called the character funnel. And what it starts off doing is taking what's known as 0-level characters. And instead of having an adventure start with, say, 5 guys controlling 5 player characters, it'll start off with, say, 5 guys or gals, 5 players around a table with the dungeon master. But those 5 players aren't controlling 5 level 1 player characters. They're controlling 4 or 5 0-level schnoob, dink, zilchy, cheese grater, loser, almost nobody characters each. And you see they go through a character funnel. It's called a character funnel because the majority of these players, these characters, are not going to make it. It's like it's like a cheese grater. It's almost like you're controlling, instead of controlling one player character, it's almost like you're controlling a unit of an army. And it's, the theory is kind of like the 1 or 2 guys that comes out at the end are going to be demonstrated to be tough enough or good enough to actually make it. Kind of the idea is like a kind of initial trial by fire. So your first level character that comes out of your first initial adventures is comes out kind of the origin story, kind of like they don't start off a new adventure, already an adventure in the midst of adventuring. You really start off with a farmhand. You really start off with a guy, day one of a conscript in an army forced into some sort of situation. And if they make it through battle 1, well, guess what? Now you're an adventurer. Now you're part of something. Now, the Guildhall Gambit doesn't exactly start with, 5 or 7 guys, but it does start you, it emulates a similar kind of setup and a similar kind of system. What I'm going to do is basically now shoot through it and kind of show you how it kind of does it and why I kind of think I'm trying to read kind of Noah Patterson's mind there a little bit. I know that the reason that I feel like I can say that it's Noah Patterson doing that is, number one, I'm familiar with what a Dungeon Crawl Classic character funnel is. And I also know that Noah Patterson is familiar with the Dungeon Crawl Classic system because they've actually authored, I know at least one, if not more, adventure modules for Dungeon Crawl Classics themselves. They're available on DriveThruRPG, if not also on Amazon. The Guildhall Gambit is a deluxe adventure module and game supplement for the micro Chapbook role-playing game. Okay, we've covered that system. We're covering that system now. This book is intended to be played as your character's first adventure. See, there you go. If you played other entries in the micro Chapbook RPG system, you will need to make a set of 3 completely new characters to play it, following the special character creation rules included here. Now, you're going to see the character creation rules here additionally include special rules for leveling up your character past the normal 5-point stat cap. Now, what you're going to see here is that this system involves creating characters that are sub-level to the normal characters you create in micro Chapbook RPG, which is, again, why I say it's part of this Dungeon Crawl Classic kind of character funnel. You're starting off with, normally in micro Chapbook micro RPG, you're starting off with one character at a certain level with a proficiency and a class and certain bonuses. Here, you're going to start off with 3 characters that you're running, but they're starting at sub levels, and there's a different character creation system that creates characters that have some skills but come in less. And so I see the blueprint and the kind of the DNA of that kind of earlier start. There you go. Here we start off with the main rules. They give you the main rules first, even though some of these things are going to get taken down as we move through. I'm not going to cover that now because we've covered them at length in other videos. And if you're here, you're probably familiar with the micro Chapbook RPG system, how it works. And I see Cocky Gherkin with some esoteric statements that will make sense to nobody. LOC. Greetings from the broom closet at the LOC. There you go. Greetings to the dark side of the moon. There you go. God bless you, Cocky Gherkin. There you go. There you go. But that's there. There you go. Here we go. Adventure background. The Adventurers Guild, one of the most prestigious organizations, and so here you see. And what we're going to do is the way that the Guildhall Gambit system works is basically this. It's a scenario that involves your three guys, your three characters, to be joining the guild, and it's kind of a kind of an audition setup. In Micro Chapbook RPG, the micro RPG system, a lot of it is centered around combat in randomly generated dungeons, like a rogue-like system. We say hello to Jeff Petty. No medal, you're number 4, so you get no medal, but you get the honorable mention. There you go. So this dungeon takes place over the course of 3 trials, 3 mini dungeons or dungeons that are run under the guild. And then once that system is explained to you, what the guild is and what's going to be happening through it, what's going to basically happen is you're going to generate these 3 characters that are going to go in as a team into these sub dungeons. It's going to be explained to you how it's going to work, and if they survive, they're members of the guild. And you're going to start off kind of subpar compared to a normal character created in Micro Chapbook RPG. But as you pass each of these 3 dungeons, you're going to be slowly brought up to normal standards. And then as you pass, you're going to be brought up past that. And then so the recommendation for this adventure module, and a lot of the adventure modules that you see, especially when you see the word deluxe on a Micro Chapbook RPG product, that's your word, that's your kind of your clue that there might be special rules. And when I say special rules, that's like extra fluff that you might be able to add to your game as an optional thing to do. So when you see, it's kind of like the $5.99, $7.99 purchase price for the deluxe adventure module. One of the ways that you can think about it is, what extra thing might you get? What extra thing? So part of these reviews that I want to do is let you know what you're going to get. It might be something as simple as, well, here what it's going to be is a couple of simple things. Number one, the simplest thing is this. In Micro Chapbook RPG, race is a thing that adds a stat bonus. In the standard game, halfling, dwarf, human, elf are options. Human adds a bonus of strength. What is it? The dwarf adds the +1 to wisdom to make the best possible wizard of all things. The elf adds the +1 charisma to make a great, fantastic bard. And the halfling adds the great dexterity bonus to make a fantastic ranger. But in the Guildhall Gambit, we have the addition of an orc that just says +1 to strength, like a human, a catling, which says +1 to dexterity, a gnome that gives you +1 to wits, and something called Feyborn. Now, it's just a word. It's just a word. But in the simple system of Micro Chapbook RPG, a word is all the difference in the world. A word is all the difference in the world. You have an occupation chart. This is a different character creation methodology. So when you pay your asking price of, I think this would be like a $5.99 or $7.99 purchase price for a game this size, you're getting an alternative character creation methodology. Now, I will go on to tell you this. What's going to happen? Oh, also this, I won't point out this. I've been talking about memorizing the simplest instance of Micro Chapbook RPG or Micro RPG, that you could memorize it, and that if you memorized it, you would have a baseline system that you could utilize to kind of create on the fly a tabletop role-playing game, a solo role-playing game experience that you could add any fluff in your head to create any scenario you wanted to. And I said, looking at the first 5 modules, that I had almost everything memorized, but weapons and monsters? Well, in the standard statements of the rules in the basic systems, in a lot of the later modules, we have a easy to memorize melee and ranged weapons system. 1d3, 1d3 plus 1, 1d6, 1d6 plus 1 at 1 gold, 2 gold, 3 gold, 4 gold, 5 gold, respectively, for melee weapons. If you can't memorize that, go back to first grade. How about this? Ranged weapon, throwing star, rock sling, short bow, long bow, crossbow. You take those words out. Those words, that's the open system. That's the open system that you can replace. The closed system is the damage and the cost. 1d3, 1d3 plus 1, 1d6, 1d6 plus 1 are the different grades of damage, and the costs are 2 gold, 3 gold, 5 gold, 6 gold, 7 gold. So if you can remember 5 entries and 5 costs and 5 damage amounts, then all you need is 5 ranged weapons, 5 melee weapon melee weapon types, and for any given scenario, and then you're ready to play any given scenario. Again, armor and items. Another easy to remember table. Again, I hope I'm explaining this thing. Some people may remember this. Some people may make sense to. Some people may not make sense to. There you go. God bless you. Cheap jokes. And we say hello to Tim Fry. Tim Fry says, CW, hello, Mr. Shanter. My assumed name. Guilds are restraint on theft. So they say. There you go. You can call me by my preferred name, Cable Guy Incognito. Or call me late for dinner. Here's some explanation, some fluff regarding the Gambit, how it's run. Not important for us to go through now. Here's some explanation of the different trials. Here is a life hack for playing micro Chapbook RPG or any of the micro RPG systems. I call them all micro Chapbook RPG for a reason. Noah Patterson, the creator of this system, calls micro Chapbook RPG, refers that to just the fantasy setting, and calls things like Neon Road the kind of alternative Mad Max cyberpunky kind of vaporwave meets 2077 cyberpunk thing kind of micro RPG. For various reasons, I think that gets going to get crazy because there's so many other things called micro RPG. But in any of those systems, playing any of those systems, what I would argue is this: read the room types first before you play the system. Before you play through the system, read all the room types and read through the monsters and their any special rules for the monsters, because there's not a lot of room to describe special effects. And oftentimes, because there's not a lot of room to describe special effects, if you don't read through beforehand and then you roll a room type that has a special descriptor, you may be thrown off and taken out of the moment of role play trying to figure out how to visualize something. So, for example, you may enter a room type and it may describe a scenario that you can't visualize. It may say something like regarding a trap door that's hard to visualize how it occurs. Does it occur when you immediately enter the room? Does it occur sometime during battle? It may be hard to visualize how monsters you encounter in a room would be existing in the space. Like if you enter a room and it describes a hole in the room that you immediately fall into. But the rules for the game say that when you enter a room, after you enter a room, you roll to see what monsters are present in there. If you haven't read through the scenario beforehand, you might find yourself sitting there going, wait, there's a giant hole in the room that you potentially fall into, but then there's all these monsters there. Like, wait, what? Like, how are they in the room? Like, so, but reading the description beforehand, you might be set up to say, okay, to expect that, then you're visualizing, okay, they're all against, they're there. They know what the spiders know what to do. Or you may go ahead and say, okay, when I roll for the monsters in that room, I'm gonna know that I'm gonna re-roll if I get the elephant. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna know that the spiders makes sense for the spiders to be there, or it makes sense for something else to be there. Or when I get there and I roll for that trap, I'm going to roll that trap after I do the monsters, or I'm going to roll that trap initially, or sometimes it will tell you, when you do it. Just it's a little life hack advice for when you roll these systems, because I don't think it's the author's fault, because when you only have 2 or 3 lines to get things in, you may want to achieve something, getting an effect in there, getting a stat modifier in, as well as some descriptive language with a trap or something. And it just might not be the easiest thing to describe, or you're doing your best to describe something, and each individual reader, depending on their point of view, their perspective, their knowledge of the language, it just might not always transfer. Let me see if I can look through here briefly and see. Okay. Hear this. Here we go. Here's a perfect example. Here's room type number 6. When you get to each individual, when you're going through the dungeons, you procedurally generate the rooms. You go through a door after you pass through the door check to figure out if it's trapped or whatever. You pass through the door, you enter a new room, you roll to see how big it is, you roll to see what type of room it is. And depending on the scenario and depending on the rules of the game, you'll figure out, it'll tell you what type of room you got depending on what you roll on your dice. If you rolled a 6, you would get a rest point. Let me read it to you. The guild masters, the people that run the guild, have put in this room as a safe haven to those who seek to complete the trial. It contains a single potion on a central stone pedestal for you to take once you've cleared the room of all monsters. Now, as a player, if I haven't read through the scenario before, I might be taken out of the moment. Why? Because when I finish all monsters, when I normally play micro chapbook RPG, I do a treasure roll normally, and I might get a item like a magic flask or a potion or something. So my question might be, wait, is that in lieu of a treasure roll? Is that in addition to the treasure roll? Now, if I've read through beforehand, I'll have made up my mind. I'll have decided it's in lieu of. Or I might say to myself, wait, is that one? Because it says the guildmaster put in this room as a safe haven to those who seek to complete the trial. Those who seek. You've got 3 people. It contains a single potion on the central pedestal for you to take once you've cleared the room of all monsters. You? But you've got 3 people. So is that each individual person? The language isn't clear. Now, you have a couple of options. Who, he, who, huh? Write an email to Noah Patterson. Dear sir, and or madam, and or whatever, you know what I mean? Or do you just go to the Facebook page, or do you just figure it out? You're going to eventually figure it out. You come up with some system, but you're going to want to do that beforehand, because if you do it in the moment, you're going to be taken out of the moment. So that's my life hack advice. Read through the room types beforehand so that you can find those moments that might be a sniggle or a snag, so you can figure out beforehand what your run through, what your handling of that sniggle or snag is going to be beforehand. So when that comes up, it's not a sniggle or a snag. And you just know it's one potion for each individual guy. And it's going to be, you're going to roll for gold. And if you get an item roll, you're going to re-roll, so you just get gold, or whatever it is. And don't overthink it. And don't worry. There's no Magic the Gathering contest champions for Magic for, um, you know, uh, Micro Chapbook RPG. It's you and the Moonlight and the Magic, and nobody likes you, and you're fine. Poison rule, again, like if there's special rules to the monsters, do that beforehand too. Read them through again, just to know what they are. Again, so here we go. The next dungeon is a special dungeon that's traps. The second trial in the Guildhall Gambit is the Trial of Traps. Unlike the first trial, which focuses on enemies, this one focuses on the party outsmarting traps. Now, this, what I say, is a good aspect of this module, and what would make this a great recommend for a purchase is all these individual adventures usually have these extra rules and these extra things that give you ideas. They're modular modules. You can take the little pieces out and then use them like Lego style to build your own little things. So you find the great trap that you think is awesome in the Trial of Traps, and then you use that as a standard feature. One of the things that I like about this system is one of the things that a lot of people don't like about this system. I like this system because the combat system is very unrealistic. This combat system doesn't play out in the theater of the mind like Dungeons and Dragons, like ooh, ah, ooh, ah. It plays out in the theater of the mind like a JRPG on the NES or the NES or the Sega Genesis. It plays out like little sprites jumping forward and back and assuming position again, and then jumping forward and back and doing unrealistic, insane things like taking their turn and then waiting and then taking their turn again, and these strange little actions. And I like that about it. The thing that it makes it repetitive, and and this kind of like role-playing game Sudoku of crossing out things, and this repetitive process that some people think makes it not like a role-playing game, is actually what I find kind of endearing about it for some reason. But like an NES game, like you can kind of program it and slide these little things in and out, but you don't need to know the ones and zeros of an 8-bit game. You just need to know how to read the English language. Here we have they have the various door traps. Here are the various traps that you're going to encounter. And like I said, if you read through them ahead of time, you'll be able to work them out, because some of these, it gets esoteric. You're going to want to work it out beforehand. Pit trap. Make a dexterity check or fall into the pit, taking 1d2 health damage. You must then climb out with a dexterity check. Subtract -1 from this roll for each companion still alive. Each time you fail, lose 1 will. If you have 0 will, lose 1 health. There's calculations. Let me also say this and interrupt at this point. The math on this game is not intense, but the math on this game is consistent. If you are going to play Micro Chapbook RPG or a Micro RPG variant, I would definitely suggest using a counter system like one that you see here, where you have the numbers like a health meter that you roll down or use a counter. Because to constantly, every time your character does damage or takes damage to a character or an enemy, to erase 30, write 28, erase 28, write 26, erase 26, write 22. Baby, that gets old fast. Oh shit. So if you notice people playing solo RPGs and people who play this system, you notice they've all got different ways. There's like, I think for sewing, there's things like the stitch counters that people use, or there's these things that people use. There's various counters. People use dice that they turn around to do the counters, but you're going to want something like that. If you're running three players, three characters, and I think Noah says that in here because at the time that this thing was published in 2020, Noah was saying this game can be played with up to three characters. The latest things that I've seen, the latest publications, Noah's saying things like you can play this game with up to six players. So listen, I mean, how many people do you want to put on the board? If you're playing with three characters, you're doing the math for three characters plus whatever enemies are in there. It's even with three of these, it's, you know, which guy is purple, which guy is it can get persnickety. So I might say to you, you know, depending on, you know, how much you like that, this scenario might be more of a cool idea than something you might actually want to do. But like I said about the modular nature of it, um, doesn't mean that just because it's intended to be run like this doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be run like this. Um, you can take the low level character creation rules and use that to just make a more difficult game and see how long it takes you to do it. When you get to the next scenario with the trial of, let me see this, the trial of dragons, you have the final trial in the Guildhall Gambit is the hardest. It is the trial of dragons. Dragons are some of the deadliest foes a hero may face. And while the dragons in this trial aren't fully grown, most are considered babies by adventuring standards. They are incredibly dangerous. You will want to stock up on healing items before entering with any gold earned in the two prior trials. Having high damage weapon and decent armor will also be a benefit to you. If you can afford it, good luck and Godspeed. Okay. Now, what we're going to see here, okay. Okay. Then with the dragons. Dragons, the four different colored dragons are cumulative bosses of this dungeon. You don't need to be, so there's different rules for how you encounter the dragons here. And the dragons you see have completely different enemy rules with a completely different attack mechanic. And I will add, because you have dragons with a completely different attack mechanic, in a low fantasy, at this point still no real magic system, with the Guildhall Gambit, you have a great way to turn your micro chapbook RPG scenario into Game of Thrones, or better yet, House of the Dragon. Most certainly. Most certainly. Most certainly. Remember, in the advanced character creation, you have mounts. So here we go. So there you go. Let me do this too. One thing that I missed, and that was my alarm, so we got to go. But let me do this. I want to make sure because I think the one thing I missed is the the leveling. Any party members who successfully survive through a trial. Remember, there's 3 trials. Get a chance to pause at a monster-free room and level up before moving on to the next trial. Leveling up during the Gambit is free. Normally, leveling up costs 100 gold. Okay, as long as you actually beat the trial. So leveling up for free So after each trial, each surviving participant will fully heal health and will, gain 1d6 additional health and will, add +1 to one stat. No stat can be higher than 5 during the gambit. Gain +1 to the damage score. Be allowed to purchase new weapons, armor, or items with any gold or earned during the trial. So basically, you are starting off sub level, but then you're speed leveling. What am I going to say here with this? And then you're going to get the this additional higher leveling guild class, and then they give you the wizards and bard spell. Oh, actually, you know what? I made a mistake with the regarding the magic system. They give you the magic system here that they give you in the updated um rule book that I showed you, that I recommended, the deluxe core rule book that I gave you last time, that I recommended last time. So you also get that in here as well. So, and then you get additional leveling rules that are non-traditional. So that's interesting too. So you get some additional stuff that you may or may not want to incorporate, that you may or may not want to use. So there's that. So you get a little bit something special, a little bit different. This video is officially the first coverage of Guildhall Gambit Deluxe Adventure module that exists on YouTube. It starts with 23 minutes of whatever. Charles John Williamson, thank you for joining us on Twitch. Proud Magic, thank you for joining us on YouTube. We do have time for a card. What do I think about the Guildhall Gambit in summation? Let me get a drink of water. The fact of the matter is, let me check Amazon for the cost on this bad boy. And I hope this wasn't a too speedy a run through. I completed the Guildhall Gambit in full? No, I have not. Let me tell you why. It gets fiddly, and the running of multiple characters got a little nutty for me. Also, it's hard enough to keep a regular generated character alive in this game. Having characters with no proficiencies and lower $5.99. If you have Amazon Prime, this is a with no shipping. Then you get. Let me check out Drive Through RPG, where this you can get this on a PDF download. Let me check out the cost there. Do this. Hold on, go with me. Hold on. What am I doing? What am I doing? The reason that we're here. Oh my God. Shit. I can't wait for Noah Paris to be like, show up one of these videos and be like in the live chat, be like Marshall McLuhan and Annie Hall. Excuse me, you know nothing of me. You know nothing of my work. And you're leading people horribly astray. And I'll be like, you know nothing of your work. What are you talking about? You're out of your mind. What am I doing? Oh, hold on, wait. Hold on. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. No, I don't. Here we go. The reason that we're here. Come on, son of a bitch. You slap you? Let me punch you? We put you around? $1.99 on Drive-Thru RPG. If you want to get the PDF on Drive-Thru RPG, it's $1.99. Okay? $1.99. It's got 4 out of 5 stars on Drive-Thru RPG. So you know what I mean? That's a recommend. $1.99 on Drive-Thru RPG. That's a recommend. No reviews. I like it. I think, you know, even though I don't necessarily like it through a straight playthrough, as intended, I think it's a great attempt at what it is. I think that the attempt to do, I do think it's an attempt to do the Dungeon Crawl Classic character funnel in Micro Chapbook RPG, and I think it's a success on that. Though I don't personally enjoy the act of doing three characters at once, just because I don't necessarily like the mechanics. But here's what I would say: if you decide that this system would work for a campaign or for a play group, the Guildhall Gambit might be a great place to start a crew. It may be a great place to start a campaign. Why? Because it might be a great team building exercise. People could get number one, it's a great place to start a story. You have a start of a story of why people get together and why people have some sort of reason to be doing something together. It is a great introduction to the mechanics of the system. A DM with new players who are not familiar with the system, utilizing this scenario and setup, would have an organic way to introduce people to the combat mechanics, the mechanics of doing the stat checks with the various things. Also, by having those trap rooms and that whole trap scenario and dungeon, is a great way to emphasize to people that you don't want to dump everything into strength. One of the things that I think people do with this system is to make the assumption that this is it. There's only one stat that really matters, and it's strength. If you do that, it doesn't work, because that just doesn't work. So I think it would make sense to teach people how creating a balance of people. Also, if you decide that you do want to run a micro RPG, micro Chapbook RPG, with a team of players, running this sort of scenario might be a great way to kind of test different kind of team builds, how to have a diverse group of players, how to have a diverse skill set spread out amongst different players, or how to build up that diverse group. I don't know. It might be do some interesting things that way. Also, I think one of the great things is this is the one of the first places that I've ever seen in this system a place like the Trial of Traps, where you have a scenario that is not just your tried and true vanilla monsters dungeon, where you have more puzzles, more different things thrown at you, that is just not the same old thing over and over again. We say hello to David Bucky. Hey, here, look, there's David Bucky making it. There we go. Getting into a little RPG adjacent. Wargaming is RPG adjacent. Here's David Bucky. I got paint all over my phone. I know I shouldn't have watched while I poorly paint 40K figures. Hey, you live and you learn. There you go. We say hello to Charles John Williamson. If I didn't say hello to you before. Prag Magic. Chapbooks were made for small press. Damn these PDFs. There you go. Prag Magic, always go print. I love it, baby. That's what I think. There you go. Blood for the Bucky God. I love it. Absolutely. It's Nurgle's Rot. You just customized your phone with Nurgle's Rot. There you go. It's the blessings of Nurgle. There you go. I think it's like anything. Like I think it's very interesting. And like I said, with these with all of these books, what I think is this: you get it's always, if there's one or two charts, if there's one or two monster labels, if there's one or two rules, if there's one or two things that you can take out of it that can stay with you, that you can throw into one or more of your games, that is sometimes all that it takes. And there's enough here um, at the asking price that I think it's something to add, or to worth adding. And it really comes down to how into micro chapbook RPG are you? There's some people that, like me, at this point, it's like, but potato chips. You can't just have just one. So for me, I get them all, and I just I love it. Um, for me, like when I did the brutally honest review of Blood for a Dollar, I was like, hey, it's an early one and blah, blah. This is not like this. There's a lot here. This is really for, $5.99. This would be like, this might be an early one that I would say, if you're into micro chapbook RPG and you're into the early games, and, you're looking for something that's got, a lot to add, man, it's got a lot of different things here. It's a lot of different things. There's a lot of unique, special little sniglets and new little things. They might not all work for you, but like I said, those each one of those individual trials, remember, is an individual little dungeon. The unique character creation, the unique leveling mechanic is a thing that you can look at and say, well, I might not take it wholesale, or I might not use it for all characters, but let me try it out. Let me see what a zero level character looks like. Let me see what a zero proficiency playthrough looks like. You might swing and a miss and say, this stinks on ice. But you might come up with, wow, that zero proficiency playthrough was like a special kind of dick brutal. But any solo RPG player will tell you, look at Dark Souls look at the Dark Souls video game. Sometimes, you know what I mean, for whatever reason, why is it as players that were like, what did you do Saturday night? Saturday night? Oh man, I played this video game, or this role-playing game, and it was basically what I do Saturday night. I hit myself in the head with a ball peen hammer. Yeah, it was frustrating. Oh yeah, you played the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Was that fun? Did you have a great experience where you felt you were level? Oh, and there were girls there, fishnet stockings and bustiers. God damn. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I was by myself in a small room, hit myself with a ball peen hammer, essentially. It was a very frustrating experience, and I slept alone. Yes. Yeah. Quite satisfying. Noah Patterson. Great. DM'd me. Ball peen hammer. Yes. Card of the day? Oh, absolutely. I can pull one. On a personal note, my ex-girlfriend, the one who technically caused the dissolution of my marriage, got married herself. I went yesterday. Card of the day. I love you guys. I'm teasing. I'm joking around. I'm not joking around. She got married. Ah, Gosh, if you know, listen, perfect, dead on the money, dead on the money, dead on the money. How you like me, honey? Dead on the money. The cards never lie. Oh baby, oh baby. Six of water in the Osho Zen Tarot. The Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. Hey, watch that salad, Oregon. Step number one is the shit. Step number two is the hospital. Step number three, your ex-girlfriend gets married. Hey, listen, the dream. Beware of endless nostalgia for the past because it's not as good as you remember. That's why they call it puppy love. God bless Donny Osmond. Let him stay in the past where he belongs. Okay? Dreams. I got dreams to remember. There's a reason why people break up. There's a reason why you broke up. Okay? Dreams are beautiful. Inspiring songs are amazing. They are. But remember, tether them to reality. Tether them to reality to avoid confusion. Understand the difference. Dreams are beautiful, magical things full of messages and import. But we make a distinction between the dream state and the waking state. And we know and understand that there's a problem when people have a problem distinguishing the two. But we're not talking about insanity. We're talking about the romantic leaving of the senses. That is the natural human condition. It's what we do. We believe. We believe in dragons. We believe in gods. We believe in love. But some of the things we believe in are just shadows in the night. Some of the things we jump at are just branches hitting the window. And some of the knights in shining armor and princesses at the window are just actors and actresses upon whom we, the directors, cast our special roles, whether or not these actors and actresses volunteered for them or not. Capiche? It's not nice to fool Mother Nature, but don't worry, it's impossible, right? Don't worry, it's impossible. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, somebody just did. That somebody's CW Chanter. Did you see that price difference between the print and the PDF? Look at that PDF price. I mean, $1.99. I mean, folks, but I love hard copy. And $5.99. I mean, look. I'm not going to sit here and say that $5.99 is nothing, but is it a recommend for me? At $5.99, it's a recommend for me. Role playing game products. I mean, at $5.99, I got to tell you, it's a recommend for me, even if you don't play this system. First of all, remember this: the basic rules of Micro Chapbook RPG are basically in every game book. And I love this system. c.w.chanter@gmail.com. Remember, folks, this is the system I basically cover here. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you like this system or want more coverage of this system, or have got any questions about this system. And I will do my best to let you know what I know about it and help you if I can. How does that sound? And I gotta go, but I still love you. Hey, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been working out. Also, why I've been doing this nostalgia emancy to give reverence to the mishaps instead of rewriting them. God bless you, Pragmagic. Jet Petty, yes, Jet Petty. Things are remembered in a fragmented, idealized way, and memory morphs each time you remember it. There you go. David Bucky, dreams are cool and all, but stuff is always better when it happens in reality. Pragmagic, memories are ghosts, constricted and constructed by defense mechanisms and ulterior realities, I'm finding. David Bucky, but I dream I did a lot. Pragmagic, we should catch up soon. Absolutely, baby. Absolutely. Jeff Petty. Ah, Jepe, the reason why I'm such a fragrance hound, the scent goes straight into the primordial brain. The scents are actually molecular vibration. If there's anything I'm addicted to, it's fragrance. What is it? That nothing triggers memory like faster than fragrance or something? Sense? Anyway, the conversation continues. The conversation will have to continue at a later time. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I hope you enjoyed this coverage. If you did, folks, get involved. Let me know if you're interested in these live streams, or these solo RPG live streams, these micro chapbook RPG, these RPG live streams, these micro RPG live streams. When you're around, when are good times for these streams to happen? I'll try to make them happen when you guys are around, so that we can make it happen more convenient for people. I'll do what I can. I love you. I gotta go, folks. I love you.